Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it is time for the beginning of the end, the first Game Week 38 video of this very long week until we get the final game week of the season. Guys, if you're very excited, please do leave a like, do subscribe. Let's have a look at what I consider to be the best team for Game Week 38 at time of recording. So some of you guys are going to like this team, some of you guys may find it a little bit out there. We are going to suggest alternatives in each position, so don't worry too much about that. But I feel like in general, a lot of the players we typically would own are not necessarily the players to own in this game week. And I think there's a lot of differentials that we could go for this week that I'm going to talk about in this video in this team. So let's start off in goal, guys, with Johnston. So Johnston plays against Nottingham Forest at home. Obviously, Nottingham Forest are a team that have already survived relegation. They don't have anything to play for anymore. Neither do Crystal Palace, to be fair. But I do like this fixture because Nottingham Forest typically don't score too many goals. And Crystal Palace have been one of the stronger defences over the last couple of weeks, haven't they? And Johnston making a couple of saves as well. So I do think there is a really good chance of a clean sheet here for Johnston. But in general, for goalkeepers, there's not really too many options that I actually like. And we are expecting a lot of goals to happen in Game Week 38. The last day of the season always brings out absolute mad scoreline. So I would be looking to invest slightly less in the goalkeeper's position if I were you guys. So yeah, I will talk about some alternatives very soon. But let's move on into defence. We've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. So like I said, a lot of goals happen in Game Week 38. So if we're going to go for some defenders, I would be wanting, ideally, to go for some defenders that do have a bit of an attacking threat to them. At least some investment in attacking threat defenders. And Liverpool against Southampton is a very good fixture. I mean, Southampton, relegated team, one of the weakest attacks in the league. Liverpool have been improving defensively a lot recently. And Trent has had a bit of a resurgence in terms of his creativity and his goal-scoring output, playing us a little bit further forward, playing as more midfielder now. And I think this is going to be a good opportunity for him to get some points. So I would consider him one of the most essential players to own in Game Week 38, as well as maybe another Liverpool player that we'll speak about shortly. Next up, I've gone for Lindelof in defence, and partially to keep the price down. This team is 99.9 million. Of course, we can make some upgrades to this team if you've got a bit more budget, and I will share those upgrades with you at the end of the video. But yeah, Lindelof, 4.1 million, pretty much a nailed on defender, which is something I like about Lindelof because Manchester United don't really have many fit centre-backs at the moment, so I'm not expecting them to rotate Lindelof. I think he will play in this game. And against Fulham at home, it's really not such a bad fixture. Man United have been good for clean sheets recently anyway. Lindelof's super cheap and gets the odd bonus point as well. So really cheap, easy defender to get to, should play in this game. That's another thing we need to worry about a little bit is potential rotation, particularly with teams with not much to play for. But there is a team with a lot to play for, and that is Everton and Tarkowski. So another 4.1 million defender, nice and cheap, playing Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth, nothing to play for. Everton, a team that can't score too many goals usually unless they're playing Brighton, and when they don't score too many goals, they do need to keep things defensively sound. And another thing I like about Tarkowski is that he does have a little bit of threat from those corners and the set pieces, getting headers on the end of those kind of moves, maybe flick-ons and stuff like that. He always generates a little bit of XG per game, maybe 0.15, 0.2, 0.25 XG generated each game, which does suggest that occasionally he will score a goal, and we have seen that historically from Tarkowski, and that's a big part of how Everton are playing at the moment as well, maybe trying to get some set pieces, some set piece goals. So Tarkowski, definitely a player who we would want to at least have a look at, even though we wouldn't pick him typically. But must-win game for Everton, and a game they'll be looking to keep a clean sheet in as well. Into midfield, we've got Mo Salah against Southampton, and Mo Salah, his form doesn't seem to stop at the moment. Always seems to be able to get an attacking return, and Southampton really are, I don't want to say finished, but they are in big trouble. I mean, they're already relegated. They're not looking good at all. They're already kind of come out and said, we're going to play the kids. So we're going to play a really weakened squad. So that's going to give a real opportunity to a player like Mo Salah, who is going to be looking to finish the season very strongly, potentially aiming to get, 20 goals this season. A 20-goal season for him would be really, really good for him. He's on penalties as well, obviously. There's a lot of things to like about Mo Salah, and I probably don't need to convince you guys that he's probably one of, if not the best pick for the game week. Next up, James Maddison. So again, we're a little bit differential here, and we've already thrown in a couple of differentials, but again, what we're kind of trying to look for here is players who have a lot to play for and could maybe bring the high score lines, and Leicester are more than capable of bringing a high score line. We know that. West Ham at home, and West Ham actually a team that over the last 5 or 6 game weeks have actually been one of the weakest defences in the league, conceding a lot of chances in general, and Leicester still creating a decent amount of chances. And here's an interesting fact about James Maddison. Over the past 5 games, Per appearance, James Maddison has the highest expected points of any midfielder in FPL. He's literally putting up the best numbers of any midfielder at the moment, which is quite crazy. He hasn't made good on a lot of his XG recently, which is unlike him, really. He's had about 3.5 XG over the last 5 games, I believe, and about 1.5 XA. Usually, he would have scored 4 or 5 goals with that amount of XG, because he often does like score from low XG chances, but recently he has just not been finishing very well. But if there's ever a time to step it up, it is this game week, and we know Maddison is the kind of best asset from Leicester at the moment. He is creating the most, he is, taking the most shots on, and I think he's just a really, really good, real differential pick that not too many people will be thinking about, with a hell of a lot to play for against a defence that is actually not really performing recently. West Ham, of course, also a team that have nothing to play for. Leicester are playing for their lives, and they're going to depend on Maddison to get something. So I kind of do like this pick, really. Next up, I'm going to go for Marcus Rashford, and I'm not completely set on this pick, but I do think for his value for money, you can't really go too wrong. He is a heavily owned player as well, so if you don't want to go too differential, Rashford is kind of a sensible player to go for. I expect him to play against Fulham. Obviously, Manchester United do still have the FA Cup final to look forward to, and therefore, maybe we are going to see a situation where Rashford needs to get some game time, having missed out so far in game week 37. We've got Eze up next, who again is a real player I quite like. Nottingham Forest, not much to play for. Eze completely reinvigorated, revitalised, and looking like a machine under Roy Hodgson recently. He's been doing so well recently, and he's playing against a team that is nothing to play for, promoted, not going down to the Championship anymore. Fortunately for Nottingham Forest fans, unfortunately for maybe some other fans, Everton, Leeds, Leicester perhaps. But if you're not a fan of those, you're probably pretty happy. But yeah, Crystal Palace, I think they're going to do the business against Nottingham Forest. We know they're a weak team. They don't have anything to play for anymore. It's hopefully going to be a bloodbath for Crystal Palace to really get some FPL returns in here. We've seen what Eze has done recently. We expect more of the same, really. We've got McNeil here as the final midfielder, and again, we are targeting teams with a lot to play for, and that is definitely Everton. So Bournemouth at home, good fixture. On paper, Bournemouth, one of the weakest defences in the entire league throughout the season, if not the weakest defence in the league, some people would possibly say. Yeah, Everton have to do something. And McNeil, right now, is the best Everton asset to go for. He's my favourite Everton asset to go for. Nice and cheap at 5.1 million. Taking a lot of shots, creating a hell of a lot for his teammates at the moment. And although Everton don't typically score a lot of goals, this is their chance. This is their opportunity. This is the moment where they do really need to pull something out the bag. So players like Maddison and McNeil, who have become talismans and the primary attacking threats from their teams, these players are going to be really players to target, playing for their lives against teams with nothing to play for, and we do want to throw in a couple of players just like that into this team. Now, we've gone pretty cheap so far, which means we can spend a bit of money up front, and we have got Erling Haaland first of all. Brentford away. Again, I expect Haaland to play despite the fact that the league is all wrapped up. Something we do know about Pep Guardiola is that he does like to keep players in the right momentum, get the momentum going, ready for the big finals. He doesn't like to lose the rhythm of players, and if Erling Haaland, obviously not starting in the first game in Game Week 37. Not sure what's going to happen in the second game in Game Week 37, but in Game Week 38, there's that one game, then we've got the FA Cup final, and then we've got the Champions League final. And if Pep Guardiola wants to keep that rhythm going for his players leading up to the 2 finals, then Erling Haaland is going to have to play. And let's not forget, Erling Haaland probably wants to add another goal or two to his record-breaking tally as well. So, yeah, I don't think it's the time to lose Erling Haaland. I still think he is well worth having in your team, guys. And finally up front, we've got Harry Kane against Leeds. Now, Harry Kane will be also looking to break a record of his own and get 30 goals for the season. He's only 2 goals off as it stands. He's been super, super reliable. And say what you like about Leeds, I know they'll be super, super motivated in this game, but Spurs still maybe competing to get Conference League, 7th place there. And also, it's Harry Kane. I know people will say, Harry Kane, he plays for Spurs. Spurs are terrible. I think by now we surely have to recognise that it doesn't matter. Harry Kane creates for himself. He doesn't need a great team around him to score 28 goals this season already. There shouldn't really be any doubt around Harry Kane anymore, despite the fact he plays for Spurs. Leeds as well. You can say, well, Leeds are under Sam Allardyce. This is going to be a Sam Allardyce Leeds team. I think, again, another thing that has been proven is that you can bring in whatever manager you like. If you have a defence as bad as Leeds United's is, it doesn't suddenly mean you're going to stop conceding goals. So Harry Kane is a great striker against a terrible defense. It's pretty straightforward, really. Could be Harry Kane's final ever game for Tottenham Hotspur as well. Will he send it off with another goal or two, hitting that 30-goal mark? Maybe. Definitely a really good chance of that. Onto the bench, guys. I've gone for Everson here. I feel like because of rotation dangers, I guess, I probably want to have a bench goalkeeper who actually has a chance of starting as well, just in case we have a disaster on the main starting goalkeeper. And you can see the bench here, guys, is pretty cheap, but it's reasonably strong, again, because I am worried about rotation. So Enciso, probably the best cheap forward to go for. Maybe you could add in Ferguson there as well if you fancy him instead. We've got Mitchell here, not really much attacking threat, but plays for Crystal Palace defence against Nottingham Forest at home, pretty decent. And I've got Kivior here as well, the Arsenal defender, who's only 4 million, played left back last game, so I don't know if he's going to play there again, probably goes back into the centre back position, but in general, it's a home game against Wolves, and that sounds good on paper, right? Even though Arsenal haven't been super trustworthy recently. But that's why he is last on the bench and not first on the bench, guys. But still, I think at 4 million... you could do worse for your money. You could do worse for your money. And with that team on the board, guys, I know there's a lot of players that maybe you guys are not super keen on, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of rotation for a lot of the big teams. Brighton, for example, I think there's going to be rotation for the final game as they've got, you know, their 6th place position wrapped up now. They can't go up, they can't go down, really. So they're pretty much wrapped up there. It's difficult to say what teams are actually going to play super strong teams. We can make guesses, but we can also come up with some alternatives to some of these players. So I've thrown them on screen now, guys. For goalkeepers, I think De Gea and Pickford are potential options. Pickford, I expect to start. De Gea, I think there is a chance that he doesn't start in that final game of the season. I'm not 100% sure. I'm probably like 90% sure De Gea starts, but I think there's just something in the back of my head saying De Gea may not start this game, and that is a little bit worrying. But Pickford is pretty safe there to play, at least, against Bournemouth. We've got Luke Shaw as an alternative for Lindelof, of course. If you can afford that, it would be nice to get the attacking threat there. But again, Luke Shaw, is he 100% nailed on? We know he has had, you know, injury problems this season. We know that Malacia can also play at left back, so there's a decent alternative there for Manchester United if they want to go that way. Dalot can play on the left as well. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that one, but if you have the opportunity to upgrade Lindelof to Shaw, for example, then I would be doing that. And into midfield, we've got some Maddison alternatives. So I've put like a couple of kind of differentials here because Maddison is a differential. If you want to go for a slightly different one, Cody Gakpo, double up on Liverpool. Of course, Liverpool with really probably not much to play for in this game, assuming the rest of the game week 37 results go the way we think they will. Liverpool are probably locked in for 5th now. But at the same time, if you fancy going for Cody Gakpo and you think he's going to play against Southampton, if you think he's going to get a decent amount of minutes, then hey, that could work. But I can see potential rotation there. I can see Bobby Firmino playing in his final game for Liverpool. I can see Gakpo coming off early. But we have got Harvey Barnes here as well, if you wanted to potentially go for him as a slightly cheaper Leicester option. But if money is no issue, I go for Maddison all day. Instead of Rashford, you could go for Fernandes. Rashford obviously is a little tiny rotation risk, but Fernandes plays whenever he's available. So I don't have any doubts about Fernandes playing. Gundogan as well, just like Erling Haaland, I expect Pep Guardiola to play a strong team in Game Week 38 against Brentford. So if you've been liking the look of Gundogan in recent weeks, it might be a better opportunity to go for him in Game Week 38 than it actually was to go for him in Game Week 37, which is quite ironic considering this is a quite difficult single game week compared to the double game week we had in Game Week 37. But that's it, basically. Up front, we've got Iheanacho as a potential Kane alternative. This is an interesting one because Iheanacho, I'm not sure if he's going to be 100% fit or available. If he is, he will play. I'm looking forward to seeing on Monday, tomorrow, if Iheanacho starts or maybe makes the bench in that game against Newcastle. If he does, I think Iheanacho is seriously on the menu as a super nice forward differential. 5.8 million, nice and cheap. One of the biggest attacking threats at Leicester at the moment, if not the biggest attacking threat, and he would be preferred to play ahead of Vardy and Daka if he's available. So I think that could be a pretty good one. There's probably a couple other players that I've maybe missed out in this video, so like Rodrigo, for example. example, maybe you guys are considering him. I know some people have spoken about Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. Not sure how I feel about that one. But I will, later on this week, go over lots of differentials because I do feel like, more than ever, because of so many of the main teams that we usually pick from in FPL, Liverpool, Brighton, Man United, Man City, Arsenal, etc., etc., even Newcastle, a lot of these teams don't really have anything to play for anymore. So it could be that some of the other players, some of the other teams might be the players to invest in. So we're going to talk about that later on in the week. So do stay tuned for that one. If you enjoyed this one, guys, please do drop a like. Really helps out the channel. And do subscribe if you are new around here. It's our final game week of the season, so we're going to be making sure to drop plenty of content to help you out for your final opportunity to gain on your mini league rivals and maybe improve your rank a little bit if possible as well. But that's it from me today, guys. I'll see you tomorrow for another video and a stream tomorrow. So we'll be doing 2 bits tomorrow. Aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.